the United Nations, my chief said that, after I won the Photokina Award, we want to send you to South Lebanon to cover the Israel-Lebanon war. I was commuting for 6 weeks between Israel and Lebanon, covering the UN peacekeeping operations. This is a peacekeeping soldier in South Lebanon. He rescued a little sparrow, Swedish soldier. Some of the devastations in the border where Abbasia was shelled and people were coming, picking up the pieces. And this is the IDF profiling. See, when I worked for the UN, the whole situation was different because all the countries are part of the United Nations. So for me, whether I went to Kuwait, Iraq, I had to just document what I saw, came back, and it's not, the stories were never one-sided because I know a lot of my colleagues or friends who work for different magazines, they always said that they had a point of view, or the magazine had a point of view, and so this is where I think UN was very different for me. And it was a strange thing because I always walked a thin line because no matter where I went, both the parties were part of the UN. My very second assignment was the Vietnamese boat people in Southeast Asia. I spent like 11 weeks documenting the plight of the boat people who fled Vietnam and they came into Thailand, Indonesia, and so I spent like 10 weeks documenting that. This particular image is important for me because from my early days, my mother always taught me about human dignity. And here was this lady who had malaria, a Vietnamese lady who escaped from Vietnam in a boat. And she was about to deliver a baby. So my first job, I thought, before taking the picture, maybe I should carry her and take her into this shelter. And there was a nurse. And anyway, that night, she delivered this baby. And next morning, she told the nurse that she wanted to meet the photographer, and I want him to come and take this picture. So, and she said, this is my child, and I want to name this child Freedom, because she said her husband and her, all the money that they had saved, just bought enough passage for this pregnant mother to leave Vietnam, whereas the husband was still back in Vietnam. And he said, one day we'll join with my son, Freedom. So in '79, I also went to Cambodia and the border of what Pol Pot was doing at that time, the killing fields. Over 1 million people were killed. And I was in the camps, and I spent quite a lot of time. And I included this picture because Pol Pot had separated this lady from the family, and they've been living somewhere else. And as refugees, the family went to California. This elderly lady was in the camp, and I photographed her, and this became a poster. 2 years later, the UN got a call from California saying, this is their grandmother, and they wanted to know where I took this picture. So luckily, I had all my notes, and she had gone to Australia through Red Cross, and they finally got united because of that photograph. And these are the reminders you see in Cambodia. I went back in 1993 for the election, and one of the things, I was very fortunate that I was able to go back to the place that I had documented earlier, and I was able to see a difference. Because Cambodia, this was a killing field in the 70s, and in 1993, when I went there, it was a lotus pond, and this little girl was bringing the flowers to the field. So it's a sort of a symbolic picture for me. It's a picture of hope. I was also in Iran in '79, '80 when the American hostages were there. This was the Friday's prayer. And this photograph was used in many magazines. '91, I was in Namibia for their independence. So I was always interested in nature. So you'll see later what I'm doing right now. And I even though my assignment was to document the independence, I photographed the dunes, and which is actually spectacular. If you haven't been there, you should go. And the next year, they used 6 of my pictures in the stamps, the Namibia commemorative stamps. 84, I was in Ethiopia. I was one of the first journalists to go there. And that was a very sad assignment. Children had forgotten how to eat. Mothers were feeding their babies intravenously. And sometimes the overload was so much, they didn't have enough medicine and food. So the kid that got a cross on the forehead, they know that they can save. So if the kid didn't get the cross, if it was far gone, they let them, without any medical attention. This girl had brought her brother 10 miles. She walked carrying him, but before she could reach and get some medical help, her brother died. This is a father with a son, a 16-year-old boy. He was trying to feed. I received the Picture of the Year award for this in 1985, I think. Then I was in Afghanistan. I did a lot of documentation of the landmines and all the, after the war, what is left behind. So I still don't understand why they make landmines. Here is an older man and a young boy. After the Russians left, they both are learning to walk on the first day when they fitted artificial limbs for them. And here's another little boy. He was a little excited to see me, and he was smiling, but the sadness I saw on the father's face, I still remember that. I was in the first Gulf War. I spent like a month in Kuwait. These are the Allied soldiers looking for dead Iraqi soldiers in the tank. It was a very strange experience. It was almost like I was in a Steven Spielberg movie, and they would drop me in a helicopter and I'll come back. Some of the things that Saddam Hussein did to the Kurdish people in his regime, when Iran-Iraq war ended, the 10-year war, he planted landmines in the Iranian high school soccer fields. So when the kids went back to play soccer, this is what happened to them.